Oh, fuck. I already fucked it up. Oh, well. It is Tuesday, December 31st, 2024, the very last day of 2024. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hidden Oaks Overdose Football Fix podcast. I am one of your lovely hostess, the Garlic Johnson. We are joined, as always, by our other lovely hostess, the Joshua Mitchell. Josh, go ahead and say hi to the folks out there. We are currently live at the time, but they might be listening in 2025 by the time they get to us.
Well, howdy doody, folks. I hope the future is great. I hope that cars are flying, and they're not crash landing. And I hope that I wake up and it's August 15th or something, and I still have time to draft for this season in 2024.
All right. We appreciate at Levi Oki Illustration. He's the responsible for all our beautiful art, and he's currently diligently chipping away at the art for the champion of the Champions League, Mr. Derek Schultz, aka Carrot21, in Sleeper, or just Carrot, I'm not sure, but he is the champ of champions this year. He was our winner of the Champs League, and so at Levi Oki Illustration will diligently have an art out, I don't know, sometime soon. He obviously is a man with a life and a kid as well, but we will see what this man can come up with. And Josh, I would also like to see what you could come up with when I ask you this very important question. How are you Darn.
Well, Gar, I'm Darren. That's with a capital on that one. Football happened last night. Watching the game, it's like, well, this is poopy. It wasn't a bad game, but it's just like I had no reason to be watching it. I got 7th place. Nobody commented on my meme that I sent in the Champions League.
It was funny,
but I did that, and that was because of one of the last plays of the game. It got a lot closer than I expected. But then my defensive player in that IDP somehow got a sack, and that gave me that lead. But then you may have gotten an idea as to what happened about midway through the game to a little bit between the third quarter and end of game. And I was in the ER last night. So that was fun.
Wow. Was that the picture I saw on Snapchat of your hand, or was that something else?
Yep. Nope. It was my hand. So as our listener knows, Odin had ACL surgery on the 19th, so he's on medication to help with sedation and pain relief. And like humans, when they're under medication, kind of get a little wonky, and dogs sometimes get reactive. And so we had started to bring him upstairs in the mid-afternoons so he could spend time with us, because otherwise he is a whiner. So we had him up there and gave him his meds after Asher goes to sleep, so we didn't have any risk of Asher kind of getting in his space and him reacting to him.
Sure.
So I'm thankful for that. But then, we're getting ready for bed, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take Odin outside, or I'll bring him downstairs, take him outside to go potty, and put him in his kennel area. And I go down to reach for his leash, and I wasn't necessarily thinking about the fact that his leash was kind of wrapped around his neck and he was kind of dozing. So I startled him. He chomped down. He startled himself because he didn't shake or anything, do the attack or the aggression on it. He bit down and then jumped up. And I looked down at my hand and I was like, oh, expletive, whatever, in my mind. I didn't say it out loud because Asher's room was right down there. And I was like, okay, you got me good. And so I started running cold water under it. I'm kind of, it hurt. I could see it bruising already, and it's just bleeding. And I go to, because how when you're getting ready to put a Band-Aid on sometimes, and if it's still bleeding, you put it in your mouth to kind of get that extra blood off. Kind of. Sure. Do you do that with cuts on your hand? I mean, some people do.
I try to avoid it, but it happens, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you don't want, because you can't just keep running it. And I didn't have any paper towels, or I did, but it's like, well, okay. But I went in and I got the blood off, and as I did that, I kind of did that to just kind of suck it up so I could spit it in the sink. And as I did that, I looked down and there was something puffy and white coming out of the wound itself. So when I did that, I found out that what I had done is actually pulled out fatty tissue. So he had got me deep enough to where when I sucked the blood to clean my finger, it actually sucked out fatty tissue. So I was leaking fat. And so I went into the ER because I didn't know how to do that. And they said, yeah, we really just don't do anything because those bites they're not like cuts with a knife. They're deep and they're bacterial. So you probably have, there's bacteria in there. So we don't stitch it. It's going to hurt. And you'll just have to make sure it doesn't get infected.
Just leave it in the open air, get some alcohol in there. Pretty
much.
Yeah,
so I'm like, so that I made a joke to the nurse and I was like, so I'm starting 2025 off with the perfect weight loss plan because I'm losing fat in my finger. But she didn't necessarily think it would be that effective.
It'd be very inefficient for that part of the body. The finger, not notoriously a fatty area. I might want to pick a more high traffic for fat area for sure.
Yeah. But overall, that's how I spent. And thankful shout out to the Monticello ER. I got in there and they're like, yeah, we've had people here for the last 4 hours, but you picked the perfect time to be here because we just got caught up and we have a couple rooms open. So I was in and out in like an hour and a half. Now, whether or not that shout out remains is comes down to whether or not I lose my finger because they gave me the wrong medication. But we'll approach that. We'll cross that platform when we get to there. All in all, Garb, that was a very long-winded answer to say, I'm all right. How are you doing?
I mean, no, I appreciate it. I feel like there's definitely been plenty of weeks where I am like trying to just claw answers out of you or just like do everything I can because you're just like, or, maybe it's just one of those. I mean, sometimes people just have days where like, I don't know. You're just like, I don't fucking want to talk to people. And I get that. We all have those days. But yeah, no, so I appreciate it. We haven't had a medical minute on the show in a while. So Josh, your version of, the patient side of things was nice. I'm doing good. I'm excited. I believe we've talked about it on the podcast before. Might have even been just last week because I think we talked about New Year's Eve at the end of the show. But like, sitting here on New Year's Eve, I've, gone to the same New Year's Eve party for what, like fucking 23 years. And this year I'm finally a free agent and, it's just an interesting time, something that was just so solid, so solidified in my life. And now it's just different because, shout out to Jamie, Jesse, Donnie, all the Hammers who have moved up to, the Hammers and Morsets who've moved up to Duluth. They're obviously happy up there, but it's almost like they didn't even think about me when they were making their move. It's kind of selfish of them. Now, what am I supposed to do for this one day a year for like, I don't know, the 4 or 5 hours I would have spent at their party? They're kind of selfish if you ask me,
Yeah, I mean, you could always just go over to the house and hang out in the basement like you always do anyways, see what happens.
Yeah, I've not made contact with the new neighbors. Bradley lives right across the street from them, so I'm not sure if Bradley has even made contact either, but no, I mean, I'm doing fine. Christmas was good. I assume your Christmas was good as well. Did Asher get all the things from Santa, or was he on the naughty list?
He got things from Santa, and then, like many kids, he realizes, well, now I got 365 more days until the next time that fat man comes down the chimney. So I could probably act out a little bit and be naughty. So that's what he's been doing the past few nights. It's been rough. People always say the terrible twos, and then nobody mentions the troublesome threes. Probably because they just want you to stop at the terrible twos. Like, oh no, terrible twos, that stinks. And nope, troublesome threes. They're bigger, they're meaner, they're stronger. It's yeah. Bark twice if you're not safe, and I'd be barking.
Gotcha. I understand. And what are you guys doing for New Year's Eve? I mean, Asher's already in bed, so I assume you guys are you even going to bother staying up till midnight, or you're like, there's no fucking point?
Yeah, the only way that I'm staying up till midnight is if I can't fall asleep. So,
gotcha.
Like since I'm on the couch downstairs, so I can be with Odin in case he does need something in the middle of the night. If I can't fall asleep or something, then that's likely the only way that I'm going to be up till midnight tonight. Gotcha. Tomorrow, though, we are going to Mr. Benjamin Williams' birthday party. There is apparently in St. Louis Park, there is a game show room deal where you get teams of people and you compete in different game shows. So Mariah sent us a text to do that. So we're going to be attending that. I said the only way that I'll be happy with this event is if Steve Harvey is our host, because they do have hosts that are involved, but didn't get a response back.
Tragic. But no, that sounds really cool. Honestly, I'm a little jelly, without question.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Now, it could be what kind of games there are. We'll see. It could be games like, Pin the Tail on the Donkey, or it could be, American Ninja Warrior. We'll find out when we get there. But yeah, you mentioned being a free agent. I know we've already did a whole lot to the intro, but what?
Who cares?
What are you doing? Did anybody claim you, or are you still on? Are you still on? Did you clear waivers? Are you still a free agent? Is it going to be the range in your underwear?
I definitely cleared waivers, and then afterwards I got some undrafted free agent offers. Since I'm a full free agent, got some offers, and I believe I originally talked to Bradley because obviously, me and Brad still in the hood. We're like, what are we thinking? What are we doing? And him and I were both kind of hemming and hawing. At least last time I talked to him, it's been a couple days. We were both kind of hemming and hawing. Like, maybe we'll go do this. Maybe we'll hang out. Maybe one of us will host something. Maybe we'll just fucking sit around and do nothing. So, not really nothing solid there. A group text got going that Donnie started that just said, hey, fuckers, hope you miss me. You can always come to Duluth if you want. We were like, no. But we said, love you and all this stuff. And then Jeremy popped in there. Was like, the man cave is going to be open if anyone wants to pop over. So I believe a couple of the at least adult neighbors are going over to Jeremy's. I will not be doing that. I think I'll be going to my friend Lucas's house. He's the guy I play. He's the dungeon master for the Pathfinder games I play in, and so I imagine it'll just. Oh yeah, you're familiar with Lucas. I forget that he pops in Xbox every so often. But yeah, I will. I'll be going to his house. I imagine it'll be a board game and/or some sort of like retro LAN party game-esque night. So that sounds fun. It sounds chill. We're bringing a couple pizzas.
A couple zaws, dog.
Yeah, bro, they said let's do a potluck thing, and then I was like, I ain't gonna fucking bake shit, or I'm not gonna make anything. So I was like, you know what? Let's go do a couple of swing by the Murphys. Let's do a little take and bake. Easy peasy. Everyone's happy.
Oh, you did See, what you got to do for those types of events is you got to go with the Jack's Pizza, get 2 of them, and then bake them both, and then make a sandwich out of it, and then just sit there with your one pizza and have a pizza sandwich. Don't share.
And that kind of goes against the whole point of the event, but or not the event, but the potluck.
No. You want to establish your dominance for the year 2025,
I suppose. All right. But as you said, that has been a very long intro, so we'll move on to a little bit of football talk here. It's kind of, the season's pretty much over, so it's not like we have anything crazy going on. Josh, we had the championship week in fantasy. Did you see any taco moves out there? Did you see any taco moves in the real NFL Week 17? Any taco things to talk about?
Well, shout out to the one ref that's probably just actually a human taco, the one that decided to call offsides on Green Bay 56 when actually it was offsides on Minnesota 76. I've seen that picture floating around Reddit. I don't know if you have or not. Very clear and obvious that the center is standing there, and then the right guard is basically looking between his legs at the ball. His entire helmet was offsides, and yet somehow the ref confused green and purple for offsides. I'm fully convinced that cost us the Super Bowl. So if we don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's because of that one ref and that one call. So that guy legitimately 3-week-old bottom of the barrel Taco Bell meat taco. That's what he is, in my opinion. Right next to him, probably end of the shift chicken quesadilla type taco move. I'm going to give it to Connor there for not taking anybody out of his lineup when he realized he needed to pick up a wide receiver. And not that it would have made a difference, but, he picked up a guy spending all of his free agency money, which we should probably let him know that's actually real money now.
We changed the rules.
Picked up Chris Conley, only to realize that he left Jalen Waddle in the entire time the day before. So big taco move. But I
didn't see what Conley scored. Would it have made the difference? I guess I didn't even pay attention.
I know he had at least one catch for a first down. So I think I don't know if he got more than that later or not. You'd think that he could have, because there wasn't really any purpose for that game for either team, but who knows? I don't think it did, but still just a taco move. You could have had Pittman in there, because I believe CD was put on IR prior to the noon games on Saturday or Sunday. So you might have been able to get Pittman in there on time, but yeah, it stinks. Sorry, Connor. Then again, not really. You stink. Yeah, how about you, Gar? Any taco moves?
No, ultimately I didn't make any moves that had cost me any games. I was in 2 championships. I won one and lost one, and they were pretty cut and dry as far as, like, it's not like I really fucked up a starter sit decision. In the NFL, the most of the noon games, I would say, were taco games. The Christmas games were not very exciting. The Houston Texans are pretty taco. Or whoever, didn't the Texans lose like 31-2 or so? Whoever that was.
We talked about it on Saturday, Gar. Jeez.
Oh, that's right, we did. Well, I forget. Anyways, that was a wild game. But yeah, no taco moves specifically. It feels good to, there's been a couple years where, I've really fucked up an important game late in the season, whether it's the championship or the semifinals, and it feels nice to know that there's nothing I could have done either way. Eric was going to beat me no matter what because of, we'll talk about, I guess we can start talking about it right now. I lost the championship in the Hidden Oaks Redraft League, but no, there were no taco moves to be had. I know. I was in the championship in back-to-back years, so that's something, I don't know how many people have done that. Probably more than 0, but I'm one of them. But yeah,
and I believe this gives you the lead for the most championship losses if you want to, glass half full.
I guess you haven't updated hiddenoaksoverdose.com in a while, so I guess it's not official until it's there. But yeah, no, he had Baker Mayfield put up almost 40 in our league. He had Malik Neighbors put up 36.1. And that was enough to beat me. I had Josh Allen, who did fine, Jonathan Taylor and did it above his projection. George Pickens and JSN underperformed a little bit. Puka was right in line. So it's not like anyone on my bench had like 50 or nothing like that. So it is what it is. I lost 145 to 128. So nice little 17-point gap there. What do you do when Malik? No one predicted Malik Neighbors 36. No one predicted, of course, Baker Mayfield going against Carolina looks like a juicy matchup, but almost 40 points, Josh. That's crazy. So, what can you do?
Yep. Now we're gonna get into the actual matchup that mattered this past weekend, and that was the 3rd place game. Shout out to Nikita for getting over that trial,
4th place hump.
That trying time of 4th place. You did get 4th place in the Champs League, losing to Al there, but that is you had kind of already accepted that after the Thursday game, I believe. But yeah, taking 3rd, making your money back. Shout out to you there. She had a very strong team all year, and she trying to look at they were projected within 3 points. They finished within 14 points. Her big team, or her big players, were Joe Burrow with that 41-pointer, and then just consistency across the board. Saquon with 19, Garrett Wilson with 18-ish, Sutton with 16.5, Laporta with 18, Chiefs defense with 17. If you want to say the big difference makers, it would definitely be between Jake Elliott scoring 11 to Kaimi Fairbairn's 0 for Eric, or the Hammers. And then Nikita had the running back assistance with Saquon and Chase Brown outscoring Najee Harris and Rico Dowdle by about 30 points.
Yeah, that's two questions for you, Josh. A kicker getting 0, does that just break your heart, or should you never really rely on kickers no matter what?
I have a feeling like if your kicker scores 0, and you're not in like the upper bracket, maybe if you're playing for 7th place and your kicker scores 0, it should actually be a bonus 500 points.
Is that what you think?
Yeah. Oh, or actually I meant 1 point. I meant if they scored 1.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Brandon.
Second question. Do you think an apostrophe is a character or a letter?
No.
Okay. So there's at least 1 or 2 people that appreciate that as an inside joke later, so I just wanted to ask you that. But yeah, ultimately, shout out to Nikita. Like you had said, she was a notoriously a playoff player. I don't have in front of me all the different times she's made the playoffs and had really decent years. But she got third this year. She's sniffing that ship, dude. Nikita's gonna get there. We could do a little bit more of a draft analysis next week if we wanted to, looking at the draft versus the finish. We did not prepare anything like that for this week, but I texted you about it, Josh, and assuming you're okay with it, we would do one more show to go over the 272, go over the studs and duds, and then we could, if we wanted to look at something like that, we could. We certainly don't have to, but shout out to Nikita, like you were saying. Hammers best season all year, and then dropped to fourth after their bye. And then in the consolation, Garrett was the consolation winner. Not that anyone really cares. And then the dumpster fire medallion holder, that will be Brad for losing the last place consolation game. It's a tough day for Brad. It wasn't his year. Moving on, Josh, You also won the consolation in the Champs League, right? Derek won that one, as we talked about earlier, but you got the conso. Was that a close one or no?
Yeah, I mentioned it that it had gotten a lot closer because Felk had started Pearsall, who had his coming out party, putting up, I don't even, close to 30 points. Felk had Pearsall and one other guy going, and I had Brian Branch, the safety, for Detroit. And I believe it got to be within 6 points. And San Fran had the ball, so I'm just like, this is going to be a Ricky Pearsall touchdown, and I'm probably going to throw everything in the house out the window. And then as I was saying that, it ended up being a sack for Brian Branch. So that was good. Actually, I was in the hospital at that point, so I probably would have just started stabbing myself with whatever I could find. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, I ended up getting that one. What was it? $400 for the consolation champ?
That is right. $600. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Good for you, buddy.
Yep. Yeah. So I'll probably use that as a down payment on my what is it? Oh gosh.
You're doing it,
and
buddy.
Red Zone. Oh God, I can't even think of it. The one that just went through the litigation or the trial on
NFL
overpriced
ticket, Sunday ticket.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna put it as a down payment on my Sunday ticket for next year.
Yeah. Well, who's got that now? YouTube, I think, right? So.
Yeah.
Shout out to them.
If you spent $49.99, you could have gotten the last 2 weeks of the season.
Well, playoffs are coming, and I'm sure Peacock will have an exclusive game or something otherwise. But okay.
Actually, it's Paramount Plus this time.
Oh, that's the Nickelodeon one. Yeah, absolutely. We need to know who the MVP is going to be. We need to know who's going to get slimed. Other leagues you and I are both in. Deflate These Balls. Road Warrior won. We don't really need to talk about the matchup of the game, but it looks like Tyler had some really bad luck. So I don't know if anyone necessarily feels bad for him, but Road Warrior wins 95-60 essentially. Champs League. Derek won, like I said. You said Nikita took fourth behind Al. I don't have that in front of me, but I 100% believe you. Obviously, I just don't have the bracket in front of me. In the Dynasty League, I won. We talked about it earlier. Connor did not fill his lineup. I don't think it would have made the difference anyways, but I have won the Dynasty League after tanking for... I won, and then I tanked for a bunch of years, and then I tried last year and didn't make it very far, and then this year I won the ship. So, all you have to do is take 4 years off, essentially, and you too can come back to prominence in your Dynasty League. Now, if I can repeat it, that's the real test. I need a couple more silly trades to go my way. Josh, do you want to just trade me someone good for someone kind of mediocre so it doesn't look like collusion? And then we can end this league,
Yeah. Yeah, I'll take half the pot too.
We'll talk about it. But yeah, shout out to me, Connor, who has, again, I've been talking about in the chat, but he has been a dominant team. He is always up there. To your point, though, he hasn't been able to close successfully. He's been in the ships a lot. He's been, one of the best teams with points for a lot. But yeah, he could just not win this Dynasty League, even though he has been by far the best team, pretty much since we started. Josh, you took fourth place, losing to Swanee. And then in last place was... last place for the season was Brian. So Brian will get the first overall pick, and that was not close. One other game I was in a third place game, and I won my third place game. So that's going to be another $150 or something come my way. So for the grain of salt, in my 2 championships, I won one, I lost one. In my third place game, I won one. It looks like I'm going to have winnings of about 370 this year. I paid $458 into my league, so that's about a loss of $88. But honestly, that's obviously not breaking even. That's, a league or 2 or 3 for some people, depending how much you pay for your leagues. But losing only $88 for 17 weeks of fun with your friends, I think that's good in the entertainment budget over 4 months. I'm okay with losing $88. It's not a big deal. And then, of course, coming up in the NFL playoffs, we will have the playoff bracket that I run every year. So that'll be, everyone else will have to pay $10 for that. And then I'll win that. So that'll be more money for me. And then, Josh, before we get there, though, coming up, we have to talk about the Vikings and Lions matchup in Ford Field, or I don't know if they've changed the name since then, but in Detroit. What do you think about this matchup? I'm sure, obviously you have your Packers angle as well. Actually, do you want to talk about the Vikings-Packers game at all? We've already talked about the phantom offsides, but anything else you want to talk about from the Vikings-Packers before we move ahead?
No, once again, it was a solid game where the Packers they didn't execute at times, but then at the very end, they made it close. I'm excited for Brian Flores to become a head coach elsewhere. So you guys have somebody like, I don't know, who's your previous D coordinator? I don't know. I think, yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Joe Barry is in your guys' office, or was it Capers? I think Capers might actually be working for Minnesota somewhere, so he might be the next DC, which would be great for us Packers fans. But
you and I have very different definitions of great.
Yeah, but overall, Jordan Love protected the ball. Sure that the first drive ended with a fumble because Josh Jacobs got punched in the throat. Whatever. You can, maybe take a look at that, NFL. But they got it within 2. It was very eerily similar to the first matchup of the season. You guys went in with like a 2-touchdown lead or a 2-possession lead late in the 4th or midway through the 4th. Even Al said they're not going to need that field goal. They didn't. But if Green Bay would have made that one stop on 3rd and 2, or got pressure on Sam at all during the game, they might have needed that field goal.
Might have.
But yeah, overall, it was a good football game. I'm not as salty as I might have been otherwise if Green Bay wasn't already locked in the playoffs, but it is what it is. They can play the Bears next week as hopefully a get-right game. As long as they come out healthy, I'll be okay with that. Then they'll go to either, I believe it's Philadelphia or Tampa Bay or the Rams.
Would you have a preferred opponent in that hypothetical future? Or not hypothetical, but no, out of those options?
I don't know. I think Philly would be the least preferred. But then again, Baker's been baking.
Baker's been baking.
And the Rams are, they're kind of cooking, but we beat the Rams earlier in the year. I think we beat the Bakers earlier in the year. I don't even remember if we played them. It's been a long year. Eagles game was really close.
The Lions, one of the Lions' big losses was to the Buccaneers, if that matters to you.
Okay, I don't think we played the Buccaneers, and that might have been the one where they had the Bucs and we had the Saints, and no, because I think that I don't care, whatever. So I think if I were to rank them in order of preferred, I'd say Rams, Bucs, Eagles, but they're playoff teams, anything can happen. So who knows?
Sure.
All right, how about you, Gar? Who do you want to lose to in the first round?
Oh, certainly the most ideal scenario would be to get the first seed and then they take the first round bye. Otherwise, we would be playing Washington, I believe. Are they locked into the 4th seed? I've not been paying that diligent attention, but either way, most ideal scenario. I won't get too far ahead of myself. I'll just say I hope that we get to we beat the Lions. And speaking of, Josh, like, of course, I would say most people would say on paper the Lions are the better team. At least they have been. They've taken a bunch of injuries since then.
I mean, their paper's probably hurt, so
the paper could be hurt as well. What do you think about this matchup? Of course, I'm a Vikings fan. It's not going to be possible for you to be unbiased, but I'm just curious what your take would be. What do you think is going to happen? Like, I think, of course, you think the Vikings have a chance, even if you'd be leaning Lions realistically. Well, what do you think about this matchup? And then I'll give my take.
I mean, I think that I think the Vikings are probably, they have a better chance than some people are giving them, just because they are the healthier of the two teams by a long shot. I don't know. Does Minnesota have anybody that's out? That's important.
Darrisaw. I mean, you haven't really noticed the loss of Darrisaw, but Darrisaw's been out.
Right. And so, I mean, they put up the graphic yesterday where they're missing 4 starting D linemen, 4 starting linebackers, and 4 starting safeties / corners. They're all on IR. So, and that was just the ones that they put up there. They don't have Montgomery. At one point last night, it looked like Amon-Ra was going to be out for a bit because he landed really awkwardly on his knee and wasn't putting weight on it. But then he didn't take a play off and went out there and did Amon-Ra stuff. Yep. But I mean, that team is they're MacGyvered together, just paper clips and scotch tape all over the place, but they somehow keep finding a way to win. I'm hoping it's a good game. I'm thinking it's going to be very similar to the first half of last night's game where there was no defense, because the offense is very dynamic for Detroit. And so we'll see. And Detroit's offensive line is really good. So it makes it a little bit tougher for Brian Flores to get the pressure that they're used to getting. But we'll see. It'll be interesting.
All right. And from a Vikings fan perspective, I've been trying to ride the wave a lot more and just enjoying. I know when Vikings had a similar year, however long ago it was, I was hoping that, or I wouldn't say I was hoping, but what's that?
Was it the Bradford year into the Case Keenum?
Yeah, Bradford into Case Keenum, but also we were 13-3 with Kirk, weren't we? Just like 2 years ago. And then we lost to Daniel Jones.
Oh, Kirk got changed. Yeah.
Yeah, Kirktober, all the things. And that year, I don't know, I didn't believe as much. I don't know. It's very complicated, very interesting times. One thing I've always said, and so I hope we win. I'm going to be cheering for the Vikes. I'm going to be, allowing, the quote unquote, I'm allowing myself to be hurt. I'll be vulnerable to this Vikings team. I don't know. I'm going to believe we can win, I guess is what I'll say. But I will also hedge my bet by saying what I've said a million times, is that the Vikings, the way I see it, if you're a wrestling fan, the Vikings have been known as good jobbers for a long time. We're really good at being built up ourselves to then put the next guy over. And the Vikings have been built up so long and so hard this year, giggity, that it would not surprise me at all if you believe the NFL is rigged, if you believe there's a script, if you believe there's, someone back there is pulling the strings. It would be a beautiful story for the Vikings to get this good, get, not as much national attention as the Lions, certainly, but, just be built up pretty big. And then to get crushed by the Lions, just so the Lions look that much better. So if something happens like that, then I'll be right about the Vikings are just one of the best jobbers in the NFL, and it is what it is. Otherwise, maybe it's our year. Maybe the Lions have been built up to put us over. Who knows? But no matter what, I just hope an exciting game. That's the only one really wants, right? Is good football. So that's what I'm praying for.
What if the Lions beat Minnesota so bad that Minnesota just doesn't even go to the playoff game, and whoever they're supposed to be playing gets a bye?
You know what? I don't know, Josh. I don't know. That's these are great questions.
What if Sam Darnold just cries the entire time?
You know what? He can cry if he wants to.
Post-game interview is just him just sobbing, just bawling, and in the background you hear Justin Jefferson go and get me out of this town. And then Harrison Smith is doing lines of cocaine, so he gets suspended, and just all of this chaos. And that's just the first glimpse we get into it. And Kevin O'Connell's standing there ripping a cig with a trucker hat on, going, "Been like this since day one."
Sure.
And and then Jesse's there for some reason.
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Well, is there anything else you like? Yeah, exactly.
Not that I can think of. I mean, we're in week 18. I want to say that's probably the only important game for the NFC this weekend. At least, that we'll be paying that much attention to. I didn't really look into the other games. I know that the Bengals need some help to get in. And if they do get in, that would be very scary with how Joe Burrow and that offense has been playing lately. Their defense has been pretty solid too. But they're definitely a team that if they get in just by this, the skin of their teeth, it's going to be one of those like, don't want to see them for the AFC. NFC wise, I would say that going into last week, the Packers were that team, but they would have had to beat Minnesota and kind of win out in order for that to be the case, even if they already locked it in. And so I'd kind of give that to the Bucs at this point, just because of how that offense has been going.
Sure. All right, Josh. So before we go, then, since this won't be the last show of the year, would you be willing? So I love the Hunger Games bit. Would you be willing, since I'm dead, would you be willing to send me off in the Hunger Games bit since I'm the last fallen man in the Hidden Oaks Redraft League, and then we'll get out of here?
Yeah.
Here we go.
Today we recognize our fallen comrade, Garlic Leanderthal Johnson. Did I do it right? I didn't hear boom.
Oh, you didn't? But did you hear the music?
I did. It was kind of a crackly, fading in and out type music.
Oh God. Okay. Well, hopefully it was better for the listeners because it sounded fine to me. But you did fine. I mean, hopefully, if I ever were to really die, you would say something more beautiful than that. But you know what, Josh? I'll accept it.
I mean, it wasn't an obituary. Weren't we just firing you from a cannon to like one of those circus tarps that they catch you on?
Have you ever seen?
That's how I always interpreted it.
Gotcha. No, Josh. If you've ever watched the movie The Hunger Games, it's not quite like that.
Oh, it's not a cooking show?
It's also not a cooking show.
I thought it was Isn't it a cooking show where they take their cakes and then they take a cannon and they shoot it and the people try and catch it in their mouths?
No, it's Josh. You might be ill, but no, it's nothing like anything you're describing.
Are you then why'd they turn down my idea for the TV show?
I don't know, man. Why does anyone do anything?
I don't know. Gunpowder and cake doesn't mix. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Gar, I know we're going to do I don't know. Are we going to do a wrap up of the fantasy season where we come up with ideas for the league?
Yeah. If you wanted to come up with some ideas as well, that's fine. Otherwise, I was just going to say at least one more show. What we want to talk about is fine. But yeah, we'll do a show next week if that's fine with you.
Okay, that works. I mean, I already texted some ideas as far as what I want to see happen, as far as rule changes. I know that with our league, people probably have checked out after the fourth quarter yesterday. For some teams, and then for most teams, they checked out 4 weeks ago when they were eliminated.
Yep.
But yeah, so yeah, okay, we can, because I do have those rule change ideas that I want to see, or at least get the discussion going, and then go from there.
Sounds good. All right, man. Well, you can go ahead and get your Go Packers because we are getting out of here, my friend.
Go Packers. Skull Lions.
There you go. Go Sports.
Sporting. Go Packers. Bye-bye.